Greetings. My name is Ujjwal Kisharia and I am the negotiator of the team Mahadevi Verma. This is Vimal Nayak, our team's photographer. This is Shashank Gun, our team's editor. This is Bhagisha, our team's coordinator. This is Uday, our team's scriptwriter. And this is Yash, our team's scriptwriter. Good morning, everyone. Today we are going to talk about one of the most remarkable figures in Hindi literature, Mahadevi Verma. She is often called the modern Meera because of her deep spiritual poetry. Born on March 26, 1907, in Farrukhabad, Uttar Pradesh, she grew up in a family that valued education and culture. From an early age, Mahadevi showed immense interest in literature and writing. Her childhood was filled with an atmosphere of creativity which shaped her future as a poet and thinker.
Mahadevi Verma was part of the Chayavad movement in Hindi literature, which emphasized romanticism, nature, and personal emotions. Alongside greats like Jaishankar Prasad, Suryakant Tripathi Nirala, and Sumitra Nandan Pant, she enriched this literary movement with her soulful poetry. Her work is known for its emotional depth, spiritual longing, and sensitivity towards human suffering. Her poems often explore themes of pain, love, solitude, and the eternal quest for meaning in life. Through her words, she brought a fresh voice to Hindi poetry.
But Mahadevi Verma was not just a poet. She was also a fearless atheist, social reformer, and a powerful advocate for women's rights. She believed that education and self-reliance were essential for women to lead dignified lives. Through her essays and speeches, she challenged social norms and spoke out against the oppressions of women. Her collection of essays, Shrinkhala Ki Kanya, The Links of the Chain, highlights the struggles and resilience of Indian women. She used her pen as a weapon to fight injustice and bring out change.
Addition to her literary contribution, Mahadevi Verma was also a talented painter and educator. She served as the principal and later the vice chancellor of Prayag Mahila Vidyapit, an institute dedicated to women education. Her commitment to nurturing young minds was unwavering. She believed that education was the most powerful tool to empower women and transform society. Her efforts in the field of education were widely appreciated and have left a lasting legacy in the academic world.
To conclude, Mahadevi Verma was not just a writer, but a voice of courage, compassion, and creativity. She broke up barriers at a time when women were expected to remain silent. Through her poems and essays, she awakened society to the importance of freedom, equality, and human dignity. Her life teaches us the power of words and the strength of conviction. Even today, her works resonate deeply with readers, reminding us the beauty of language and the spirit of resilience. Thank you.
What is an idea? What is a thought? And how do we think of these great and new ideas that are worth spreading? My name is Henning Beck, and I'm a brain researcher. And I want to show you what is going on in your mind when you use information to give rise to new thoughts. This is important because information is all around us. Many people think it all starts with data. Data, the resource of the 21st century. Companies collect our data, we do data analysis and data correlation, but in fact data itself is pretty simple. It's just a collection of letters and numbers, signs you can process electronically but have no meaning. And you can measure data, but you cannot measure an idea, because when are you really creative or innovative? When you have 1,000 thoughts, only one, the real game changer. So maybe information is more important. We have so many tools nowadays to acquire information. We have smartphones, mobile devices, the internet everywhere. But never mix up information with having an idea or knowledge. Because you can Google information, but you cannot Google an idea. Because having an idea, acquiring knowledge, understanding stuff, this is what is happening in your mind when you use information to change the way you think. So, what is that kind of thinking? Well, everything you see here is just the surface of what is going on in your mind when you think. Most of the things run subconsciously, which makes it damn hard to investigate but even more interesting. So let's zoom into the brain to check out what is going on when we think. Many people think the brain is something like a supercomputer, like the ultimate calculating engine. It is supposed to be extremely fast, super connected, and highly accurate. When you have something on your mind, like right now, hopefully, a picture or an image or something like that, you can see very sharp and precise and switch very easily, much faster than a computer, right? Because what can you do with this one? This one's at least stylish, it has appeal on your desktop, but that's it, right? Well, look at this again, and you see it's totally the other way around. A computer you can put on your desktop easily calculates 3.4 billion times a second. Brain cells are much slower and only do 500 operations maximum speed. Computers don't make any mistakes. A rough estimation is one error in a trillion operations. And brains, you probably know this from your personal life, much more error prone and make mistakes a billion times as often. In computers, you can plug into the internet and you're connected with the world contrary to the brain. Because the brain is 99% self-contained. Most of nerve fibers never get outside of your skull. Most of the brain cells never see what's going on in reality. So from this perspective, you have to say, okay, the brain is everything but perfect. It is lame, it is lousy, and it is selfish, and it is working. Look around you. Working brains wherever I look, more or less. But still, each one of you has the power to outperform every computer system by a very simple experiment. I can show you in a minute.
So, what do you see here? A face, you might say? Totally correct. I could also say it's just a collection of fruits and vegetables, but you see a face. And what's interesting is not that you do it, but how fast you do that. Because when your brain cells are really that slow, you can do only like 20, 30, maybe 40 operations within that split second. Computer software needs many more steps, thousands, and millions of steps to come to the same result. This leads us to the fundamental principle of how we think, because it's totally different from anything you know of in our world. So, how would a computer approach this kind of problem? Well, computer uses algorithms. Algorithms are basically stepwise recipes telling you what to do. So, when a computer faces a certain problem, for instance, recognize a face or solve an equation or whatsoever, the basic principle goes like this. You have an input, then you process that input according to the algorithm and finally reaching an output. Input, processing and output. That's great. That's great when you don't do any mistakes, because when you do a mistakes at the beginning, you are screwed at the end. That's why computers sometimes break down and end up in a blue screen. Computers break down, but brains do not break down unless you apply some external forces or alcohol or something like that. Usually brains are very robust, and that's because we think with a trick. When an input hits our eyes, the input is processed by the sensory cells in our eyes and they get activated and activate the nerves of this neural network. So this is like a simplified model of your brain in action. You have to agree for a didactic reason, I drastically oversimplified that model of your personal brain. At least I hope so. But you still see the basic principles, brain cells are dumb on their own, cannot do anything much. But if you have a lot of them, you end up with something we call an activity pattern, an activity state of that specific neural network. And this activity pattern is what we call a thought.
Big difference to a computer. The brain does not distinguish between processing and output because processing the information is a thought itself. That's kind of tricky, but maybe if you look at an orchestra from the outside, seeing all the musicians sitting next to each other but not playing any music, you have no idea whatsoever melody this orchestra is able to play. Just like the brain. When you look at the brain from outside, you have no clue whatsoever thoughts this system is able to think. In an orchestra, the melody emerges when the musician starts to play with each other and synchronize themselves. So the music, the melody is among the players, just like a thought in the brain is among the brain cells when they synchronize with each other. So a thought is not located anywhere. A thought is how the brain cells interact and how they process the information. So that's different to a computer because no matter what kind of processing the computer uses, whether it's algorithmic or a deep learning network or whatever fancy method we will come up with in the future, it will always be input, processing, output without mistakes, hopefully. But if you don't do any mistakes, you just end up at the place you were programmed for. But nowhere new. Computers are intelligent, but intelligence is nothing special. Intelligence means you follow the rules as fast and efficiently as possible, but not to change rules. No super intelligent computer will ever rule the world because intelligence is not enough. You need to be rule breaker, a game changer. You need to be crazy and creative too. And it's a mistake in our thinking, not the perfection, that separates us from the non-creative machines. What do I mean by mistake? Well, it means that we can come up with a new thought, a new activity pattern, without knowing before whether this is correct or not. Slightly differently actuated, we get a new pattern, a new thought, but we don't know whether this one is correct or not. We try, we fail, we do it again, but there is no objective criteria for a good idea. Well, there's one thing. When is an idea a good one? When somebody else says, this is a good idea. But this social interaction, this social feedback, this try and error, this social practice cannot be digitalized right now. And that's one reason why truly new ideas will stay analog in our future. You see that this kind of thinking gives us great advantage when it comes to creating new ideas. And when we call that special type of thinking concept thinking or categorized thinking. And
So, how you create new ideas? Who thinks that this is a chair? Please raise your hands. Alright. Who thinks that this is a chair too? Alright, please raise your hands. Well, you all are familiar with furniture, I guess. Okay, thank you. Now, who thinks that these are also chairs? Please raise your hands. Alright. But why do you think that this blue chair with three stumps is a chair? Now, this is what we call deep learning. You give self algorithms to your well. This is the big difference between computer world and brain world. Our brain gets gazillions of images, and with 98% certainty, it says that a chair is an object which has four legs, has a backrest and handrest, and can. But what do we analyze from that? We understand one thing that a chair is not something which has specific features, but a specific shape. But what does chairs do? Chair is made for sitting. So if you understand that, you can understand that everywhere we can make new chairs. We can see new chairs with new features. That's what we call deep learning. It like we give self algorithm to understand what is something. So how do you do that exactly? So that's understanding. But computers learn. Animals also learn. And dolphins learn. But we understand. Understanding means. But when you understand something, you cannot de-understand. But when you learn, you can unlearn it. So understanding means that you change the way to process the information that you get. Okay. So here is another example. Let's say just uh, let's say so here is an example. Let's say this is a flower. Okay. So what could it be? A tree. Okay. So what could this could? A garden or a forest or whatever it can be. So here is another example. Let's say let here it is a child. What could be? It is a grown up. So what could it be? A family. So get here you can see that the data is the same, but
information is different. And now, as you can understand the given data and information analyzed, so that's how you can do on the spot. But computers cannot do it. It's impossible for them to analyze the data and give spot on answer and information. From the above examples, we can understand that understanding is a very deep process. Deep process in the sense that understanding process creates changes the way we process information in our brain, and this change in information change in process causes change in our thoughts and change in outcomes, as the process of out process and the outcomes is same in our brain. We don't we cannot much differentiate between them in our brain, so that's basically a thing. And understanding is a concept which is not much popular into now, like in computers they can learn but they cannot understand the things that we can do on spot, like the previous example that I've given already. So understanding is important. That's all.
A couple of weeks ago, my 2-year-old neighbor walked into my apartment and looked up and said, "Oh, smoke detector." I said, "What? What kind of parents did this little boy have? Are they showing him hundred of pictures of smoke detector and fire exists until he learns what a smoke detector is? Probably not. He might have heard that word once or twice and that was enough for him to understand the whole meaning. We know from the lab studies that children are able to understand the first stuff of animals, of pictures at their first sight. That's amazing, and even you can do it. How long it take you to understand the word Brexit? Maybe you have seen it once or twice in media and that was enough. Once you understood it, you can do stuff with it. Now, if you know what a Brexit is, what could be a word Itexit, Frexit, or any other word? Seeing it first time, but understanding is easy. Now, even more, if you know what Brexit is, what could be a Bremen or Britain? Again, seeing it first time, but taking it correctly. So, remember the face of the sad person on the blue screen you have seen before. That poor one is different from the happy one of just 50% of its content. But for us, it is 100%. So, can you understand how powerful our way of thinking is? Well, the first thing to realize is that don't do it like the computers. Most of the people in today's world thought that it is important to solve critical problems and analyzing the thoughts. But that's what exactly the machine do. Every efficient procedure can be replaced by a new idea. But what cannot be replaced is the new thinking, understanding the stuff. Well, how to do it? First, we learn the first we take breaks and then get distracted from our motive. We take break and sleep and then we get distracted from our motive. Sometimes it's very ineffective, but sometimes it's very effective because instead of just thinking about data and rather depending upon data for information, it's more important to think our creative ideas and innovate them. Now, if you step back at that, then you will never be able to understand it. But with the power of our thinking, we can finally understand it idea and we can focus on understanding the stuff.
Second, when you ask people where do you get a good idea, 70% answer under the shower, followed by during sports, driving a car, vacuum cleaning the apartment, washing the dishes. See the pattern here. Whenever we do automated routine of boring stuff, we seem to be clear our mind and attract new ideas. In fact, this is a great technique many creative genius used. dig into the problem, focus on the task, get involved, and then step back. Do something unrelated, not a new problem, but chillax. In ancient Greece, this was codified by saying to be kissed by a mouse. But you have to create a kiss-friendly atmosphere for such a muse. And this means that you step back, that you do something unrelated, that's some automated routine, sometimes boring stuff because otherwise it would not be possible to put the same thing into a new context. Third, escape the echo chamber. Nowadays, it's so easy to be surrounded by convenient but not inspiring opinions. In fact, we don't like other opinions. Facebook algorithm filter all the online posts that are suitable to us. Most of our friends share the similar point of view. We read newspapers that feature the opinion that we like. We use media online, TV, radio to confirm our beliefs, but never to challenge them. But by doing so, we create echo chamber, filter bubbles around us. In order to spark new ideas, you should do the opposite. Try to provoke yourself from the time to time. Read something you disagree with. Have a productive argument with friends. Try to see things from the other side. Don't think like an algorithm. Now try to challenge your opinion and ideas instead of confirming them. Try to break the thinking rules instead of following them. So that what is the next great idea that is worth spreading. We don't know yet, but we can be pretty sure that it will be created by brains, not because we are smarter, faster, or more intelligent than computer, but the opposite. We are slower, we are irrational and imperfect. That's why we understand the world instead of analyzing it, and this is giving us the ultimate edge we could appreciate and be more proud of this because this is what makes us human. Thank you.
At last, we would like to thank Dr. Anup Kumar Tiwari sir, our communication skills professor, for giving us such a wonderful opportunity of exploring new things and having a new experience through this communication skills video. Thank you, sir.